So I don't know about you guys, but that music got me pumped up. Exciting stuff. That's from our two organizers who are on uh, this this panel discussion with us today. That's their band, the L Train Brass Band. So I just want to say hello and welcome, and thank you all for joining. Thank you all for sharing the comments in the chat. It's great to see everybody. My name is Pat Patterson, and I'll be your host and moderator for today's exciting panel discussion. I have to tell you that it's very inspiring to see how many people have joined, from across the US, from across the world. See someone from London, Florida, Brooklyn, that's where I'm at right here. It's inspiring to see you've all joined, especially around a discussion about keeping communities connected. I think we all know that keeping connected right now is probably more important than it's ever been. If you're like me, if you haven't had a lot of human interaction, you can do some crazy things like trying to cut your hair and screw that up. So you'll see how that went for me. So you can see that having people connected with people is a great thing to have. Just before introducing our next two organizers, I just wanted to go through some housekeeping items. So real quickly, just so that you're aware, this event will be recorded. So don't worry, we won't see any of your faces. You'll just see myself and the two panelists. So I apologize if you decide to put a nice shirt on like me for once. You won't be recorded, but this recording will be available. So this will be available on our blog, and you can go to the blog at meetup.com/blog. And you can also receive the recording to your inbox by subscribing to our newsletter. As you can probably tell as well, as a courtesy, you've all been muted, but it doesn't mean you can't converse with us via the chat or via the Q&A. Like I said before, it's great to see your comments in the chat. We love seeing who you are, where you're from, and more importantly, why you're here. And the chat is a really great place to talk to each other. But if you do have a question, please make sure you submit those questions in the Q&A feature, which you'll see at the bottom of your screen. We just want to make sure we can track all the questions, have them in one place, and get those answered as soon as we can. So that's the best place to do that. Like I said earlier, my name is Pat Patterson. I am the digital marketing manager here at Meetup. I'm excited to be joined by Chapel and Angelica Li, who are co-organizers of the Meetup group, the L Train Brass Band. And they will share with you how they translated their events online and have really kept their community engaged and connected in the world we're living in today. So I'm gonna turn over to each of them for a quick introduction, and then we'll hop into the panel discussion, and then we'll save the last 15 minutes for Q&A. And as I mentioned once before, please remember to use that Q&A feature that's at the bottom of your screen. So I'll turn it over first to Ali to introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. My name's Chapel. I'm originally from Colorado, but I've been in the New York area for about 5 years. I'm the marketing director for the L Train Brass Band, actually one of its founding members. So I've been with this group from the beginning, and I'm super passionate about it. My favorite thing is about been seeing all the people that have come through the group over the 3 years of its existence, and here we are. So just facing new challenges, and we'll get through them, and I'm excited to see where this takes us.
Hey.
Awesome. Angelica?
Hi, everyone. Yeah. Hi, I'm Angelica, and I'm originally from SunCal. I saw someone from SoCal over there, so hi. And I'm the partnerships and events director for the L Train Brass Band. And yeah, like Ali said, it's a challenging time for all of us, and we're just all working together to kind of find our way through it.
Awesome. Well, we're glad to have you both here. I'm excited to kick off this panel discussion. I have to say that, I've talked to you guys a bit already before this panel. I admire you both a ton. For one, for being so musically talented. I have myself almost no music ability. Aside from cutting my hair during quarantine, I've been one of those people who've been trying to get new hobbies. So I just got this ukulele the other day. I have no idea how to play it, but hopefully I can figure that out, and that could be one of my new hobbies. But like I said, I admire you, one, for being so talented, but two, also for being able to take a complicated group, like playing music together and making it work in today's environment where we're connecting with online events. So that being said, my first question for you both would be, what were you, most afraid of or concerned about when you started to create your first online event? and how did those things turn out for you?
Yeah, so our group is, it's been mentioned, is a brass band, but we're a community brass band, so we have up to 80 members or so, and about 30 to 40 people that were showing up weekly to rehearsals, which we had on Sundays. So that was our regular recurring event. And then we had our performances were also our events as well. And actually the time leading up to kind of everything shutting down, we had about 5 events in one week, and in one day we had 3 events. So
Oh, wow.
we were super busy leading up to this point. So actually, when it came time to our next regularly scheduled event, we actually just decided to just cancel it. We kind of like took a breather, took a break, and we communicated that that in-person event was canceled. And then over the course of the week, we already missed each other, and we were like, okay, let's at least just have like a happy hour on Sunday, and we can just like send out a Zoom link, have everyone come in and chat, check in with everyone. Since we are such a close-knit community that's constantly growing, we thought it was important that we, provide a space for everyone to kind of come together again, since people couldn't come together in person. So we had this happy hour, and that went really well. And then the next week we learned that we could probably adhere kind of our past agenda to it. So we would typically do things like announcements, birthdays, loose things like that. We kind of stuff like housekeeping items we do in the beginning, and then allow for that space to kind of chat afterwards. Then once we did that, we realized we could probably add in more things. Even though we flat out thought we couldn't play online, we thought we could do some more like musical related style events, so where we could have our music director come in and just talk about the music and talk about different ways to practice and things like that. So it was like creating first just a space for the community, and not just necessarily thinking, oh, we can't do what we're here for in person.
Right. So it sounds like keeping connected first and foremost.
Yeah, and so one thing what we were gonna do with our biggest in-person event was gonna be our big celebration, because we were turning 3, as I mentioned when I introduced myself. But so that was a big thing, and Angelica can talk about how we took that in-person event and made it good for online.
Yeah, so
Awesome.
we definitely, before all this happened, were ramping up to our big anniversary party. And so when we realized that we had to cancel it, we kind of had to put our brains together. And the biggest concern we had, I'm sure everyone had that too, is trying to figure out how to make the key components of your kind of in-person event, how that can translate online. So we're lucky to have, our group is lucky to have a great like leadership team. And so we kind of put that team together to kind of figure out how we could break down the components of the event and still have it be successful online. So what we did is we tried to be as creative as we could, and also flexible based on the technology that we had. So what we ended up doing is we put it on Zoom. We knew that we would have probably close to 50 people. So we wanted to make sure that everyone could hear each other and also see each other. And we wanted to make sure that the schedule still felt like it was a live and moving event, and to make it more special. So you can see we had decorations, like Zoom decorations. We sent out, this was one of them, the tinsel. So we wanted to make sure that everyone still felt like it was a real live event, even though it was online. Everyone kind of dressed up. Oh yeah, we have a little screenshot of everyone. We even took time out to take a group photo. So this is what it was. And allowed people to dress up, dress down, do whatever they wanted. And we even had like a little cocktail hour in the beginning, and trivia, as well as an award ceremony. All the components that we were going to have live, we were able to do it on Zoom. And we also debuted a couple of music projects that people were working on. So it definitely was super successful. It was the first large event that we did in the beginning of April.
That's so awesome. And you can see it just from everybody's faces that it looks like everybody was having a great time. And I'm sure, given today's environment, it was probably, awesome to be able to see everybody, use Zoom and see everyone and be able to connect. And it sounds like you both have, one thing you both mentioned was being flexible, but also what's really awesome, you guys have been very creative with the way that you've been able to stay connected and kind of not just playing music together, but like you said, doing trivia, awards. I think that's really cool how you're able to adapt. Mm-hmm. Another question for you then. So obviously it's different, hosting events online than it is in person, like you mentioned. What are, I guess, some of the biggest challenges that you face hosting events online, and how did you overcome those challenges? And then, that the other side of that is, what are some of the successes you've seen when you've been hosting these events online?
Yeah. So the first one was so once we created a space for our community to kind of get together, it was how do we get them to come back, especially when our event is making music together, which we decided early on that's something we wouldn't be able to do. You'll find out later that we actually were able to do that. But the first thing was like working in topics that were related to what our group was created for. So we were able to have our music director screen share a score, and she would talk through rhythm. So that was really helpful. But all of these things that we decided to do that makes our music event relevant and something that people would find interesting online, we put into an agenda that we set out ahead of time. So that way people knew what to expect when they came to this event, because we get so tired with these Zoom calls. You're like, is it worth my time getting on? So these agendas were really important for us. And then thinking about how to mix it up. So we have a repertoire of music. You heard a song earlier. But when people join this group, they want something new constantly. So we actually took the opportunity, even in this online setting, to debut a new arrangement. So our music director was able to present something new. That's why we were breaking down rhythms and things like that. So even though we could have easily just talked through something old and kind of made it work that way, we wanted to take that a step further and offer something new. So Angelica can talk more about how we actually were able to start playing in our online events.
Oh, awesome. Interesting.
Yeah, definitely. So our biggest challenge, and I'm sure all the other organizers have the same thing, is trying to figure out how to translate our in-person events onto an online platform. So for us as a music group, it's trying to figure out how we can play together online, or even live, if that's even possible. So at first, as Ali said, we decided that we couldn't really do it live just because of technical restrictions, and we didn't want people to have to invest in certain software or hardware. But then through Zoom, we got more familiar with how to use it and the different kind of capabilities between muting and kind of unmuting different players. So we were able to play live. So here are some screenshots just to show everyone what we ended up doing. One of the beautiful things right now that's happening in New York City is 7 o'clock. Everyone's making noise for essential workers. So there was one night where a larger organization kind of organized a symphonic fanfare. So we were able to use Zoom, and everyone was unmuted and play it all at once. And it was definitely a lot of fun for those that aren't in New York City. So they were able to participate and hear noise and support essential workers at the time. And then to take that a step further, we were able to hold some sectionals using breakout rooms in Zoom. And we even through kind of impromptu jam session, which you can see on the screen here. And it's just through strategic muting and unmuting and playing a backing track that we're able to do that. And as Ali mentioned previously, we were able to review a new arrangement. Also, our music director kind of walked through a new tune that she was working on, and it was a lot more successful than we had ever anticipated in this new online format.
Oh, wow. That is really cool how you guys were able to obviously adjust to the new technology and play the music that you love playing together. And also, I think it's great. So you mentioned how you're able to play together for that fanfare at 7 o'clock. I think living here in New York, it's such an awesome thing, and being able to contribute to that with your band I'm sure it was inspiring for a lot of people. But my dog, whenever that it happens at 7 o'clock here, will start howling. She's a half husky mix, so she tries to add to her own music as well. So I'm sure the actual music you guys played was a lot better than her howling, and probably gave a lot of people a lot of inspiration. Next question for you guys then. So what are some of the biggest changes you've made to make your events online?
Yeah, so actually one of the things that we realized was actually really important that we shouldn't change, which we had incorporated into our in-person events, was this time to like trickle in. So even though we're not commuting and having to show up in a particular place at a particular time, people still had reasons for being late or whatever, and like, you know, problems connecting. So we had worked into our agenda, which we stressed again, was really important to put out ahead of time. So like a 10-15-minute buffer to people to kind of get into the Zoom room, kind of mingle with each other, which was also important, that time for people to talk. So people knew that they had a space to be able to do that before actual agenda started. And then what I just mentioned was like live events equals in-person time and place. So online, we figured that people would be needing us as a community, things to do in a way to keep connected while not being online at any given point for a specific online event. So we started compiling resource materials by asking the members in our community, the teachers and professionals, to provide these resources so that we could compile them and distribute to the different sections, instruments in our group. That allowed people to be able to work on stuff, which is important, so that when we come back to our in-person events, you know, as safely and when possible, that we're not just set back, so that we're using this online time to kind of advance ourselves for when we return to these in-person events. The other thing we've been working on is replacing our like performance model, so that with some of our events were actual performances. So since those can't happen in a time or place, we're creating these virtual videos. So these are in place of our performances. Having something to work towards, that's something people can be working on while they're, you know, not on our online events. And we can also use those projects to talk about at our online events. So we work that into our agenda, like planning it, discussing it, planning about planning it. So all of those things keep our community connected by just like using those as a discussion point.
That's awesome.
And like to kind of build off of what Ali said, we're also encouraging smaller groups within our larger group to kind of create their own events outside of our like weekly rehearsal. And that includes, like, we had a small clarinet group, even non-music related events like cooking nights, game nights. We even had well, it's still going. We have a Catan tournament running right now. So kind of just encouraging that and increasing like the community building within our larger meetup group. And I know everyone knows this. The beauty of Meetup is that it brings people together through their shared passions. So we really wanted to kind of explore that again and reach out to our members and see what they were interested in doing. And that's where our first virtual band video actually came about. It was an organic thing where one of our members posted a recording and everyone kind of just started building off of it. So kind of finding those passion projects within your group and supporting it is really important at this time. Whether it's related to your meetup or not, you just want to support your members. And then for our virtual band video, we were actually creating another one using the learnings that we had from the first one, and we formed a little committee to kind of help move things along and keep things organized. And we're going to release it for June is usually our parade season. So this is kind of our replacement for, not being able to march in parades that we love to march in. So I think we have a little screenshot of our first video. So when we first played this, we kind of debuted it together through screen share on Zoom. And definitely after we watched it, everyone felt like they were together again playing live, even though we weren't. So it was definitely, for a lot of the music groups out there, if you haven't tried creating a kind of a multi-screen video like this, definitely something to explore.
That is such a cool picture, and I'm sure it was such a great experience. And I just wanted to, Angelica, one of the things you mentioned, I think, is an awesome point, where you connected over your shared interest in music, but it sounds like you all, through connecting in different ways, have connected around other interests as well, which is kind of silver lining to the way you're meeting these days, which is a really cool thing.
Yeah.
And so, Ali, I know you mentioned that it's important to have an agenda for these meetings, to be structured. Did you do anything else? Did you set any rules or guidelines for online events that were different from kind of hosting in person?
Yeah, actually, Angelica can speak more to this. She's a little more tech savvy. So she's like, oh, but this is just the way she thinks. I'm a little more of the creative, and she's like, okay, I know how we can execute.
This is why we're a great team.
Yeah, exactly.
So we did have to put together some rules and guidelines. Obviously, when you have more than 3 people on an online video chat, you do need to set some rules down. So first and foremost is be conscious of muting. Make sure that everyone, if they're not talking or they're not saying something relevant, please mute. We got a lot of people cooking, you know, vacuuming, doing whatever they need to do while they're kind of on our calls and hanging out. So we just tell people to make sure that they're riding their mute button, as we say, to be conscious of that. And like Ali said before, having that agenda, but also being flexible is super important, just because we want to be very conscious of everyone's time, even though we're all mostly at home. We want to make sure that everyone knows what's happening in the Zoom call and that we're not just hanging out and talking about random things. And like we said before, making sure to be a little bit flexible and letting people trickle in as they need to before you start any official announcements or official event items. And then another very important thing is making sure that you have 1 or 2 people lead. So like you today, Pat, you're leading our panel right now.
Trying my best.
You're doing great. We want to make sure that at all of our events, we have at least 1 or 2 people kind of as the Zoom host and making sure that we kind of move things along. But on the other end of the spectrum, we do allow at the end some hangout time, because we want to let people, you know, talk about whatever they want to talk about. If it's what they're cooking, what they're eating, whatever, we just want to allow for that hangout time. And also these guidelines should kind of vary depending on what activity you're doing. For instance, when we're having an impromptu jam session or sectionals, we ask everyone to mute and only the section leader to control muting. So yeah, you have to kind of figure out what event and activity you're doing, and then kind of base those rules and guidelines off of that.
Makes a lot of sense. Those are really, really great tips, I think, for any kind of group. I'm going to speed things up a little bit. How has membership engagement changed, knowing that you've moved to online events? Has there been less engagement, more engagement, and are there any tips that you can share with the Meetup community around that?
Yeah, it's actually quite surprising. It hasn't changed. And in fact, we've actually gained a couple members since we've gone completely virtual. We've had 2 new members join our completely virtual band since this all started, which is about the same rate that we had before. So that is great to see. So in a way, I think it's changed because I didn't expect us to get anyone at this point. I didn't expect us to lose anyone either. Just because we are such a community and we wanted to do everything we could to keep everyone engaged. The other bonus is that we've actually been able to engage our alumni who has since moved to other parts of the world and other states. So they're involved now. I actually see some of them in participating now. So that's really cool because we are in different spaces and these events are happening virtually, they're able to join us again. So that is really cool. Yeah.
We actually have an alumni here, so I'm just waving at her right now. Hi. And in terms of just some examples of how we're maintaining member engagement, building off of what Ali just said, we're encouraging our members to host their own events with their own ideas. So we do give a few other members event organizer access to create them themselves. And so we have like movie nights, and we know that Hamilton is going to be on Disney Plus soon, so we're kind of actually creating a meetup to watch that together.
Ooh, it'll be fun.
Yeah. So and that's the key, is giving some other members event organizer access. That's the important thing.
And that's work for us.
Yeah, exactly. And then providing an accessible online space. And for us, it's been a standing Zoom that we can use. One of our organizers, through work, was able to set that up for us. So at any time we have a link and anyone can join it as long as it's empty and free. And then this is one of the most important things that we found, especially now, is having another communication platform for data connection. So we use Slack, and on there we basically talk daily and have reminders. So if a meetup event is coming up, we'll remind people to RSVP, but most of our communication is on that other platform. And
we have about 25 people in our online events, but like 50 to 70 people active on Slack. So people are like constantly involved that are, members of our meetup group. So they're talking constantly.
Yeah. And then we'll send out some email blasts probably every week, once a week or every other week, with more important details to kind of like reinforce, because right now everyone's online, but there are a lot of different ways to get information. So we want to make sure we cover all bases there.
That's awesome. That's really, really good advice, and great to see how you can keep members engaged that way. Just real quickly, anyone who has a question, if you could please, I know there's been some questions coming into the chat. If you could direct those to the Q&A feature, that way we can make sure to capture that and ask those. We have a few more questions here before we head over to Q&A. I think we're getting a lot of awesome info of Angelica and Ali so far. Maybe they'll answer some of your questions with these next few questions we have. One more, what can organizers do, to support their members transition to online events, based on kind of the experience you've had so far?
Yeah, kind of just again what Angelica said is just having that space for people to constantly be communicating, especially when we're in such an isolating time. So again, the standing Zoom room where anyone can just pop in there and see who's in there, or just like on Slack say like, oh, want to watch a movie? Okay, we'll just use the Zoom room. So it's just a space that is there and available for everyone. We actually use the term the room of requirement. It is what you want it to be. So we're constantly encouraging our members to communicate with each other and do events together, even if they're not some of our more formal events. We actually create a meetup, but they are engaging with each other. Again, I've mentioned that, the virtual band was important because that kind of came up organically, and now we're taking that model that they came up with and kind of using the leadership power and really making something special out of this for a big month that would normally be important for us. And importantly, what we found is in order to collect kind of the information about what our members want, is we just started doing polls and voting and collecting information that way.
That's great. I think from what you guys have shared so far, but you mentioned one of your points here, be creative and flexible. I think if you guys have are definitely creative in your approach, and I think your point around flexibility is important too. I think especially during the time we're in now, it's more important than ever to be able to accommodate everyone's needs and meet your team where they are, and kind of keep that communication going as much as you can through whatever forums you have available. Couple more questions before we go to Q&A, just two more, and this might answer some of the Q&A coming in. What I want to hear, I guess, is what surprised you most about having your events online?
Definitely one of the biggest surprises is how many events we're creating and hosting that aren't music related as a music meetup. But like Ali said, we had the room of requirement for Zoom. Now we're the meetup of requirement. We're just supporting the community as much as we can with whatever they would like to be supported with. And one of the nicest surprises was our group is actually closer than it was before. Wow. Through all these online events. And we're really excited. And I think we're actually going to come back stronger as a group, as friends, as like a band family. And like Ali said before, we had alumni visiting us on our Zoom chats, which was not really possible before. And the fact that we are able to have new members join a brass band during a pandemic, that's amazing. And they're all lovely surprises.
Yeah.
What was that term? Bandbully?
Bandbully.
Love it. Love it. You even, did you coin that during this, or was that previous to this?
That was organic right there.
Oh, wow. So we're even coining new phrases during these online events, as we could see. One last question, and then we'll go to Q&A. What changes have you made to accommodate your online events that you will continue when you meet offline, knowing that you've had these successes and these learnings?
So one of them definitely is to allow the other event organizers that we've created, given access to kind of host their own meetup events without like the larger leadership team kind of overseeing, because that way we can have other either music interests events or even non-music related events. I think that's definitely something that we'll keep beyond this. And even adding in, when we still can meet in person, adding more online social events, because the fact that we don't have to commute actually makes it really great and easy to kind of hang out.
Yeah, and stay close.
That's great.
Yeah.
Connected. Yeah, and actually I think one thing that we've kind of learned from this that we actually haven't explored too much yet, but it's really exciting because there's still new things to try, is we used to do arrangement workshops where we would, outside of our rehearsals and our performances, we would invite people to come learn music theory and how to arrange music for our group, specifically brass band, which is different than most music groups. So we had leaders in our group that would lead kind of like a teaching session. They would do like bring in a presentation, and we would like usually, you know, pick somewhere, some bar, some place in the city, and do this. But I think that this would be totally better executed online, like through Zoom, where everyone can see, you know, on their own computer, the screen share, be talked through it, be connected, see face to face, and everyone kind of answer questions. Like, I just think this online format is actually going to be way better. And not only that, but just the flexibility of scheduling, and people can be anywhere. Like maybe they just got off work and they wouldn't be able to make it wherever it was. They could still tune in and learn something great. So I think that's something that we'll take away from this for sure, as a gift from all of this happening.
Yeah, I think there's definitely that silver lining of these things you've learned about each other and about, you know, different ways you can connect and meet. And I'm glad you're able to share that with, you know, everyone on the call here. And we'll share this recording as well, so more people can get that kind of inspiration, those learnings from what you guys have been able to accomplish so far. So I think that's really great. That's all the questions that I had for you guys. I'm going to go over to the Q&A now. This first question, I think I could take this one. This one's from Trumpet Tom. He asks, what adhesive can I use to fix my brass instrument? And that would be a tuba glue. You guys get it? Sorry, that's not a real question. That was just me being silly.
I need a drum set, but
that was me being silly. I'm sorry. Okay, so let's go to the real Q&A. So Brian asked, do I need marketing for my meetup group? And what does that entail? And is it worth it? I guess maybe speak to your guys' experience with your meetup group.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that like more importantly than like external marketing is internal marketing. So like really making sure your members and your community know everything that you're doing. Setting up this external form of communication, whether that's, you know, Facebook message, Slack channel, something like that, so people can communicate, and make sure that they know what events you're putting on, and then ask them what kind of events they do want. I think engaging your community and looking inwards is going to be your biggest success. And then oftentimes those people that are in your group will market your event for you when it's successful. So like that's your best asset, is like it's listening to them and those people, and then using them to speak proudly about what you're doing.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I think organic marketing is always some of the best. Angelica, sorry, do you have something to add?
I was just gonna say, a lot of our like members kind of find the meetup through other members. So that's, like Ali said, internal marketing from your own members.
Yeah, definitely. This is maybe more of a technical question. So Jan asked, when using Zoom, there's sometimes a slight delay between voice and participant hearing. How do you deal with that when you're playing music together?
So we've already realized that we can't all play live at the same time. So What we did is for sectionals, we'll have the section leader be unmuted and then everyone else muted. And while the section leader is playing like a certain passage in the music, then everyone else can play themselves and learn and this is what we did with the new arrangement. Everyone else was able to play and kind of work through a new piece. But it feels like you're actually playing together with the section leader, but without kind of the Zoom like overlaps in terms of sound.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
So Michael asked another question, maybe similar. You mentioned it before when going through some of the guidelines. What do you mean when you said strategic muting and unmuting?
So strategic muting and unmuting, I'll use our jam session as an example. So for that, we play a backing track using the share sound, the share computer sound feature for share screen with Zoom. That way everyone can hear the backing track, and then we'll have a designated person muting and unmuting the soloist coming up. So depending on, we'll have one kind of captain, so to speak, saying, all right, the next soloist is this person. And then you usually see a little hand go, yeah, I'm good. And then next person, yeah. And then the Zoom host will kind of mute and unmute so that everyone can hear the soloist playing over the backing track while everyone is playing backgrounds to that track. But it works out really well.
I thought the backing track was really interesting. So I was just a participant in listening to this last time. So I heard the backing track and then I heard the soloist on top. So it's just an observer. It sounded like a full band to me, which was really cool. Whereas the sectionals was a little different because I was just hearing the one person who was playing and myself. This was really cool to kind of provide that just illusion of the environment of playing together, just because we had some pre-recorded material. And then you were able to but still be present with people because you could see people's faces and have that reaction that way. So kind of creating that environment in kind of an illusionary way was strategic, and I think we were able to accomplish what we set out to do. So.
Yeah. It's really interesting and really cool that you guys were able to do it that way. So another question for you. David asked, I really miss the ability to mingle with various subsets of a group naturally before and after an event, casually walking over to someone and chatting. Do you guys, I know you mentioned some of the things you've already done, but do you have any ideas on how to recreate that online?
This is actually something I'm very passionate about. Like my favorite thing was the bar we went to after we had our meetups, seeing everyone, and then you have to show up and you rehearse. And Angelica said that we are actually closer now because it's not like we're showing up standing next to the same people and just playing music the whole time. We're doing different sort of activities that allow each other to get to know each other better. But outside of those activities that we're planning, we're allowing space at the beginning and the end of our scheduled Zoom events for people just to kind of hang out. And naturally, because people trickle in, there's smaller numbers at the beginning and the end. So people can kind of either say ahead of time, hey, do you want to meet a little early on the Zoom call and we can catch up? Or people just naturally, there's 4 or 5 people at the beginning, and we allow 10 or 15 minutes on our schedule for people to kind of mingle. And the same thing at the end. We're like, okay, this is the end of our scheduled agenda, but feel free to hang out in the Zoom room. We're not going to just shut it down, do whatever you want. So we kind of tried to maintain those social aspects as much as we could.
Yeah, and for some of the new members that hadn't met any of us in person yet, we do have some kind of fun activities that we plan in that schedule, like name that tune, or we'll do a crossword together, or do band trivia, stuff like that. So we do try and allow for some of those fun activities to kind of let people introduce each other if they haven't met before. But the majority of our group knows each other and has met each other before.
I saw a comment just pop up that big group mingling is tough. So maybe you want to leave that space for people to trickle in a little longer if you have such a big group. Like I said, people will naturally kind of filter in small groups. And I think it's just important to just be mindful and kind of pay attention. Maybe have a leader just kind of see and observe people if they have something to say. Then you can be okay, I see that so-and-so wants to say something or address people. It's just being really aware and conscious of everyone, especially when you can see everyone on the screen. I recommend using the gallery view so that you always know if someone's trying to speak and is not able to.
Yeah, the gallery view, and also using the chat, having people, if they don't want to talk over each other, to say what they want to say on the chat. I tend to do that a lot too on the chat, and then I'll as sometimes one of the agenda keepers, I'll kind of call out if someone says something important on the chat, hey, this person said this. So using gallery view and the chat feature specifically for Zoom has been super helpful for us in terms of the larger group gatherings.
Yeah, I know you guys mentioned already your jam sessions. Sometimes you use the breakout rooms, and that could also be another use of the breakout rooms to have smaller interactions with individuals, to have that small talk or whatever conversation.
Yeah, and again, definitely scheduling smaller events. So we have our ABC3 party, like our anniversary party is like 60 people in one Zoom call. Like we're also like people by like-minded interest are like doing a baking event. That's like 5 or 6 people. That allows those people to kind of catch up and communicate as their own group with their shared interests. So allowing people to create their own smaller events and smaller groups like allows time for that.
Definitely. A couple more questions before we wrap up. I think you have a fan here. Laureen asked, where do you share your performance, or where did you share your performance besides Meetup?
We've been taking full advantage of all social media as the marketing director for this group. You know, I want to promote this, all the amazing things that we're doing. So we'll put the video up, you know, when we do our virtual performance, which kind of replaces our in-person performances. We'll put it up on YouTube and share that on Facebook, Instagram. And then we, again, encourage our members to share that. So that's the biggest thing too, is like using the force of our membership to, you know, also share the great things that we're doing. But we have a website too. Our latest virtual video is linked there, ltrainbrassband.com, so you can check it out there.
Awesome. Lorraine also asked, she said she belongs to the Georgia State University Community Wind Ensemble, and they played virtually as well. And she just wanted to know, where did you get that musical rhythm info that we showed previously?
So which one? Can you repeat the last part of that?
Yes, the musical rhythm info. I think something we shared on one of the slides.
I don't know, Laureen, if you want to really quickly add to the music score. That was a new arrangement that one of our music director had, newly arranged, for lack of a better word. So she was sharing that with the group.
It was her Sibelius file. So she just shared her screen and she was playing through the Sibelius file for us.
I see what Stephen was helping us clarify. The backing track actually was created and recorded using Soundtrap. It's a online program. And so we were able to kind of record that backing track and then play that. And again, that's called Soundtrap.
Gotcha. Maybe one more question. I know we're getting close at time here, but I think this is an awesome discussion we're having so far. A lot of engagement on the chat and the Q&A. So Tamika asked, she said she has a lot of members. What are your suggestions for engaging members who are not as active?
Yeah, I would reiterate again, just having that space to communicate outside of the meetups. So if you are providing opportunities for people to speak out about what they want, then they'll probably be more engaged. That's the first thing. The second thing, again, is putting out communication about what you're going to do ahead of time. So creating an agenda or a schedule and posting that, and then maybe even leaving that open for discussion. Say, this is what I propose we do. Is there anything else you'd like to see on this in advance? And if people are giving suggestions, then they're more likely to be present and be involved.
Awesome.
Yep. And we're doing that through Slack and before we create a meetup event. So our polls and our discussions is on that platform.
Okay. Maybe we'll end on this next question. I think this is a good one to end on. What's real quickly, what has been your favorite in-person event memory so far?
I have to say the anniversary party, I really do. The fact that we were able to take all aspects of this event, from the decorations, we're like, okay, we would normally bring balloons. Like, how do we decorate this event? We created custom virtual backgrounds. I'm actually gonna, we had a junior prom theme, so I designed this one. And then we would have drinks. So we had people lead us in cocktail making before. We encouraged people to dress up because it was going to be a prom themed event, and people really got into that. So making every detail special and setting it apart from, all these different Zoom calls and our normal meetings, making certain things really special and something to look forward to, I think was the best moment.
That's awesome. Angelica, did you want to add?
It was the same one for me.
Well, that's a good thing.
But I'll also add that our virtual band videos, when it's all done and we kind of debut it and watch it together, that for our first video was very special, very emotional for all of us. And I think it'll be the same when we debut and watch together the second video. So that's another one that I'm really looking forward to.
That's awesome. And I think this is a great place to end on a high note. I want to say, thank you, Ali and Angelica, for sharing your story, sharing your inspiration. Hopefully, I see a lot of comments coming through saying this has been inspiring, this has been uplifting. Thank you for everyone who's called in and joined and dialed in and listened to this presentation. Hopefully, you can bring this back to your group. And then I think maybe we can have some outro music and maybe a little dancing, and we call it a day. So thank you all, appreciate it, and we'll see you at the next Meetup Live.
Thank you so much.
Thanks,
Take care.
everyone.
Thanks, everybody.